Hey guys, Scott here, and let's settle the debate which is better, Sprint Burst or Dead Hard. These are two of the best exhaustion perks in the game for survivors, and the best perks for survivors are exhaustion perks, so they're the actual best perks in the game that survivors can put on entirely. Sprint Burst and Dead Hard are always cited as basically number one or two and one, however you look at it, and Life is good too. The balanced landing situationally good, but Sprint Burst and Dead Hard are the most universally good ones. So I'm going to go over those because that's usually where the biggest debate is. And I think 100%, not even a question, Sprint Burst is better than Dead Hard. And I'll go over the reasons why. Thing is, I think Dead Hard for a lot of people is more frustrating because typically when Dead Hard is used properly by survivors, it's not in a fashion where they're dodging a hit. It's in a fashion where they are just using it to gain distance to a pallet, and that's basically uncounterable. And the reason I think people hate Dead Hard more is because it's very in your face, and it usually happens after you outplay the survivor. So say like you'll moonwalk them or something like that, and they'll be right next to you, and then we'll go, oh shit, I'll just eat at the pallet. And then your correct play is then punished because they have their Dead Hard. So I think in that regard, that's why people probably hate Dead Hard more, because it's more in your face and it's a direct result of you making an outplay a lot of the time, and then they just don't get punished for it, and that's pretty annoying. So I think that's why people hate Dead Hard so much. However, I think just like objectively, Sprint Burst is better, because even Dead Hard has its limitations. Sprint Burst, the only limitation is you can't run all the time. But the thing is, you can just run to a generator and work on the gen, and as you're working on the gen, you don't have to move, and that's when your exhaustion is recovering. So typically, smart teams that have Sprint Burst will know, if some guy's getting chased, everyone can just Sprint Burst to a gen. There's no downside to it. And then as they're working on the gen, their exhaustion will eventually recover. And when they have to get into chase, well, now they can just go wherever they want. The reason Sprint Burst is better than Dead Hard, at least in my opinion, is because it makes everywhere in the game a safe area. One of the most important things you can do as killer, one of the biggest killer skills, is creating a dead zone over time, remembering where you've made survivors drop pallets, which pallets you've broken, where you've hooked people in these dead zones. Making dead zones is basically the only way to win against good survivors, because good survivors with infinite setups, you'll just never catch them. So it's very important to set up a dead zone. Sprint Burst makes it so there are no dead zones ever anywhere on the entire map, because you can always Sprint Burst to something. And that is why it's so strong. Now, Dead Hard will give you an extra hit, and that is, very, very strong. Like, when I say I think Sprint Burst is better than Dead Hard, I'm saying it's like 1 or 2% better. It's really not by much. But the only thing is, Dead Hard is not always usable, whereas Sprint Burst is always usable no matter what. You can always get use out of Sprint Burst. You can't always get use out of Dead Hard. If you're caught in a bad area with Dead Hard, and if you're caught in a bad area with Sprint Burst is obviously way better, because if you're just trying to dodge a hit with Dead Hard, it doesn't do shit against good killers. They'll just wait for it. You'll never actually do it. So that is the main differentiating factor. There's never a bad time to Sprint Burst, but there is not always a good time to Dead Hard. And sometimes when you're in like a round loop, you can't always actually Dead Hard to the pallet, because if it's round, you're kind of Dead Harding a little bit away from it because it's a circle. You can't Dead Hard in a curve. So in those scenarios, you might actually not gain as much distance, and you might not get the distance required to get to the pallet. But, those examples are few and far between. Dead Hard is still extremely effective in getting to windows and pallets pretty frequently. I just think the major upside that Sprint Burst has, which is always being usable and always getting you out of a dead zone no matter what, is what makes it so powerful, because it takes away one of the strongest things that killers can do, which is, setting up that dead zone. The downside to Sprint Burst is that you can't run everywhere, but like I said, as long as you just run to a generator and sit, well, you don't have any reason to go anywhere anyway, so it's basically always going to be up. When the killer actually starts chasing you off the gen, that's when you actually use the Sprint Burst. Additionally, you can work on the gen for a while, and while someone's on a hook, you need to go save, you can 99 your Sprint Burst, and that is even stronger than Dead Hard, because that is just, you really can't do anything about that. You just let go of shift, reuse it, and then you're just gone. So that's why I think Sprint Burst is a little bit better. I think probably people overall think Dead Hard is better because of how annoying it is to not get rewarded for you outplaying an opponent. But I would take 4 Dead Hards over 4 Sprint Burst any day of the week. Like, a rank 20 Megahead can get to a safe spot with Sprint Burst. Most competitive teams, from what I've seen anyway, would prefer Sprint Burst over Dead Hard too, because with that coordination, you can know when you're having to recover your exhaustion. So you don't even have to walk to generators. You can still run to them, and then you'll know when it's safe to regenerate your exhaustion on that gen. So that's why I think Sprint Burst is better. I'm curious what you guys think, though. And I have to make it clear again when I say it's better. I think it's just a little teeny bit better. Dead Harding to windows and pallets is almost uncounterable and almost always usable, but there are times where Dead Hard doesn't get use, like if you're in a really bad area and there's nothing to Dead Hard to, whereas Sprint Burst will get you somewhere safe almost every time. So that's why I think Sprint Burst is a little bit better. Curious to hear what you guys think, and thanks for watching.